Nissan has lost more than 1.2 trillion yen in 2 years. It is closing 7 factories, cutting 20,000 jobs, and selling its own headquarters. Every credit agency that matters now rates its debt as junk. Number 1 is the figure that shows how far there still is to go. Number 14, the 90% drop that started it. Before the record losses and the plant closures, there was one number that should have set off every alarm in the industry, and it barely registered outside the financial press. In the first half of the 2024 fiscal year, Nissan reported a 90% drop in operating profit. Sit with that for a moment. Not a decline, not a difficult quarter. 90% of the money the company makes from actually building and selling cars, gone in 6 months. What sat underneath it was sluggish vehicle sales, which forced a scale back of global production. And a manufacturer that has to cut production is a manufacturer paying for factories, tooling, and staff it is no longer fully using. And if you own a Nissan, this is where the story starts mattering to you rather than to shareholders. A manufacturer under this kind of pressure makes different decisions about parts supply, dealer networks, and how long it supports the model you are driving. That is the point where the crisis stopped being about one bad year and started being structural. Everything on the rest of this list follows from that one figure. 9,000 jobs went before anybody used the word crisis. Number 13, the first 9,000. The response to that 90% drop was the first round of cuts, and by later standards, it looked almost restrained. Nissan eliminated 9,000 jobs globally, closed plants, and offered buyouts to its production workers in the United States. 9,000 people is an enormous number in isolation. What makes it significant here is that it turned out to be the small round. Everything announced since has been larger, and that tells you something about how the company was reading its own situation at the time. This was still being treated as an adjustment, a matter of aligning capacity with demand. It is worth remembering what 9,000 people actually represents. Engineers who knew specific platforms, line workers with decades of experience on particular processes, and supplier relationships that took years to build. None of that comes back when the accounts improve. It was not. Within months, the scale of the response would multiply, and the buyouts offered to American workers in that first round would look like the last easy option Nissan had. Then the merger that would have solved everything collapsed. Number 12, the Honda deal that fell apart. This is the moment that changes the whole story, because for a few weeks there was a version of the future where none of the rest of this happened. Nissan and Honda entered merger talks. 2 Japanese manufacturers combining scale, sharing development costs, and facing the electric transition together rather than separately. The talks failed in early 2025. Think about what a merger would actually have provided. Shared platforms, shared battery development, shared software investment, and a balance sheet strong enough to absorb the restructuring Nissan needed. All of the cost spread across a much larger company. There is a reason 2 large manufacturers were talking at all. The transition to electric vehicles is the most expensive thing this industry has attempted in a century, and it has to be paid for out of profits on cars people are still buying today. Nissan would now make that jump alone. When those talks collapsed, every one of those costs stayed exactly where it was. Nissan would be doing this alone, and the announcements that followed came within weeks rather than months. 5 executives lost their jobs in a single month. Number 11, the leadership clearout. What happened next was not a resignation. It was a removal, and it did not stop at one person. In March 2025, Chief Executive Makoto Uchida was ousted, along with 4 other top executives, directly following the failed Honda merger. 5 people at the top of a company in the same month. That is not succession planning. That is a board deciding the strategy, and the people responsible for it both had to go. The replacement was Ivan Espinosa, a 20-year company veteran who had been Chief Planning Officer, effective the 1st of April 2025. Whatever you make of the decision, the signal it sent was unambiguous. A board does not remove 5 senior executives in 1 month unless it has concluded that the problem is not going to solve itself and that the people who created it cannot be the ones to fix it. The choice is worth noticing. Not an outsider brought in to break the culture, but someone who had spent 2 decades inside it. Whether that was continuity or comfort is the question that hangs over everything that follows. His first plan cut 15% of the entire company. Number 10. Re Nissan and 20,000 jobs. The new chief executive announced his recovery plan in May 2025, and the numbers in it were far larger than anything that came before. The plan is called Re Nissan. Its stated aim is to create a leaner, more resilient business that adapts quickly to market changes. The mechanism for getting there is subtraction. Around 20,000 jobs, which is roughly 15% of global staff, to be cut by 2027. 7 factories to close. A cost-cutting target of around 500 billion yen, about $3.4 billion. Compare that with the 9,000 from the first round, and you can see the escalation. The response more than doubled in under a year, and the timeline runs to 2027. It is also worth being precise about what a cost-cutting target actually is. 500 billion yen removed from annual expenses does not become 500 billion yen of profit. It offsets losses that already exist, and it costs money to achieve in the year you achieve it. That end date matters. It means that as of right now, this process is not finished. The cuts announced are still being carried out. If you found this already video helpful, you'll definitely enjoy my ebook. You can get it through the link in the description or by scanning the QR code on the screen. The limited time offer ends soon, so don't miss out. And don't forget to subscribe. Number 9. 17 factories down to 10. The job numbers get the headlines. The factory numbers tell you more about what kind of company Nissan intends to be. The plan reduces manufacturing facilities from 17 to 10. Not 17 to 16. 7 plants, gone. By early 2026, that process was already well advanced, with Nissan having closed or sold 7 major factories worldwide, including the CVAC plant in Mexico. Understand what closing a plant actually means for a manufacturer. It is not a cost you switch off. It is redundancy payments, contract penalties, asset write-downs, and the loss of the capacity itself, all landing in the accounts before any saving appears. For you as an owner or a potential buyer, plant closures raise one practical question worth asking. Where is your specific model built, and is that plant on the list? A vehicle whose production has moved or ended is a vehicle whose parts supply chain changes with it, which is exactly why the losses got worse rather than better while the recovery plan was running. The cure and the disease arrive on the same balance sheet. One of those 7 was the plant Nissan was built on. Number 8. Closing Opama. Among 7 closures, one carries weight the others do not, and it is the one that told the industry how serious this had become. Nissan announced plans to close its flagship Opama factory in Japan. A flagship plant is not just a production site. It is where a manufacturer develops its processes, trains its people, and demonstrates what it can do. Closing one is a decision no company takes while it still has alternatives, and it is happening in the home market, which carries a political and cultural weight that a closure in Mexico does not. Japanese manufacturers protect domestic employment as a matter of principle. The chief executive was notably careful in public about this. Asked directly about plant closures, he declined to confirm or deny, saying the company was reassessing the situation, while adding that they did not have time to waste and resources to spend. That is not the language of a company with options. So when a Japanese carmaker closes its flagship domestic plant, it is not signaling efficiency. It is signaling that the alternatives ran out. They also sold the building the executives worked in. Number 7. Selling the headquarters. This is the detail that most people miss, and it says more about the cash position than any figure in the accounts. Nissan sold its headquarters building. A headquarters is not a productive asset. It does not build cars, and selling it does not make the company more efficient in any operational sense. What it does is convert a building into cash immediately. Companies do this when liquidity matters more than balance sheet appearance. It is a one-time transaction that cannot be repeated, and everybody in the industry knows it. It is also a decision with no operational upside whatsoever. Closing a factory eventually reduces costs. Cutting staff eventually reduces costs. Selling the building you work in produces cash exactly once, and after that, you are paying rent on it. There is no version of this decision that is about strategy. It is about having money available, now, while the restructuring costs land. The Mitsubishi stake went the same way, for the same reason. Number 6. Selling the Mitsubishi stake and stopping the dividend. Two more decisions from the same category, and together they complete the picture of a company raising cash from wherever it can. Nissan sold a portion of its stake in Mitsubishi to boost immediate cash reserves. It also suspended dividend payments and has explored asset sales and strategic loans to bolster liquidity. The Mitsubishi holding was not a spare investment. It was part of the alliance structure that gave Nissan scale in shared development and purchasing, and selling into that reduces the influence that came with it. Suspending the dividend is the clearer signal of the two. That is money that would have gone to shareholders being kept inside the business instead, and no board does that unless the cash is genuinely needed. If you are trying to judge how serious a corporate crisis is, this is the pattern to look for. Not the announcements about efficiency, which every company makes. The sale of things a healthy business would never sell: headquarters, shareholding, dividend. 3 sources of cash, none of which can be used twice. Now the part that is actually going right. Number 5. What is genuinely working? A video with this title owes you the other side, because the picture is not uniformly bleak and pretending otherwise would be dishonest. Nissan is not bankrupt and is not going out of business. It remains a major global brand with over 3 trillion yen in quarterly revenue, and it will continue to honor factory warranties and run its service network. On the production side, there is genuine positive news. Second shifts have been confirmed at the Tennessee plants that build the Altima, the Leaf, the Rogue, and the Pathfinder, and the company described itself as ramping that up. That matters because it is the opposite of the rest of this list. Adding shifts means building more cars, which means demand exists for those specific models in that specific market. For anybody driving one of these cars, that is the reassurance that actually matters.
Your warranty stands, your dealer network continues, and the vehicles being built in Tennessee are being built in greater numbers rather than fewer. The company is also focusing on software-defined vehicles and solid-state battery technology, and the Leaf continues as its flagship electric vehicle. Whether that is enough is a separate question, but the investment is real. 400,000 cars vanished from the forecast. Number 4. 400,000 cars that will not be sold. Every cost-cutting measure on this list assumes a certain level of sales to cut costs against. That assumption moved. Nissan revised its sales forecast from 3.8 million vehicles to 3.4 million. 400,000 vehicles is not a rounding error. It is a market position, and it disappeared from the projection rather than from the sales floor. The company also admitted that its projected profits were inflated, with actual figures coming in around 70% lower than expected. That is an admission about the quality of its own forecasting, and it damaged investor confidence directly. 400,000 fewer vehicles also means 400,000 fewer sets of parts ordered, 400,000 fewer cars sharing development costs, and a smaller base across which every fixed cost has to be spread. The forecast cut makes the cost cutting harder, not easier, which creates the harder problem underneath all of this. A restructuring plan is built on projections, and a company that has just been wrong about its projections is asking to be trusted on a new set. Tariffs then hit the models built outside America. Number 3. The tariff problem. Some of what has happened to Nissan is self-inflicted. This part is not. United States tariffs on imported vehicles hit Nissan directly, and they were specifically cited as a factor in the losses for the year ending March 2026, alongside the restructuring costs. The exposure comes down to where the cars are built. The Sentra, one of Nissan's key models, is produced in Mexico. So a manufacturer already paying for 7 plant closures found the economics of its existing plants changed by a policy decision it had no influence over. Rising production costs and constrained pricing flexibility followed. There is a second layer to it as well. Tariffs do not only raise costs, they remove flexibility. A company that would normally respond by shifting production between plants cannot do that while it is halfway through closing 7 of them. This is the part of the story that no recovery plan can solve internally. You can cut costs, close factories, and sell buildings. You cannot restructure your way out of a tariff. Every major agency now rates the debt as junk. Number 2. Junk status and a debt wall. This is where the situation stops being about profitability and starts being about survival, because credit ratings determine what borrowing costs. Moody's downgraded Nissan's credit to Ba2, which is non-investment grade, citing weak cash flow and profit margins. Both Moody's and Fitch now rate the debt as junk, and that makes Nissan the only major automaker in that position. The only one, not one of several struggling manufacturers, the single major car maker whose debt is rated below investment grade. And the timing is the problem. In 2026, Nissan faces a debt repayment spike to $5.6 billion, a figure 4 times higher than its current obligation. A junk rating is not a label, it is a price. It raises what the company pays to borrow, narrows the range of institutions willing to lend at all, and it does both of those things at precisely the moment the company most needs access to money. Put those two facts next to each other. A repayment 4 times larger than normal, falling due exactly when the company's borrowing costs have risen because of the downgrade, while it is still paying for a restructuring that runs to 2027.
Which leaves the total, and the target set against it. Number 1. 2 years and the number they hope to make back. Everything on this list has been building to one comparison, and it is the clearest measure of how far Nissan still has to go. For the fiscal year ending March 2025, Nissan reported a net loss of 670.9 billion yen, about $4.5 billion. That was the largest annual deficit in the company's history, and one of its biggest losses since Renault rescued it from near bankruptcy a quarter of a century ago. Then it happened again. For the year ending March 2026, announced on the 14th of May, Nissan posted a net loss of more than 533 billion yen. A second consecutive year of losses, driven by tariffs, factory closure costs, and restructuring. For context on the scale, that is more than the entire market value of several established manufacturers. It is not a bad quarter written off. It is 2 full financial years in which building and selling millions of cars produced no profit at all. Add those two together, and you are looking at more than 1.2 trillion yen, roughly $8 billion, gone in 24 months. And here is the comparison. Nissan expects to return to profitability in fiscal 2026, forecasting a net profit of 20 billion yen. And it is worth being clear that the 20 billion is not a small ambition disguised as modesty. It reflects what is actually possible in a year where restructuring costs are still landing, tariffs are still applying, and 7 plant closures are still being paid for. 20 billion against 1.2 trillion. The recovery target is under 2% of what was lost, and it is a forecast rather than a result. That is not a criticism of the plan, because a company has to become profitable before it can become profitable at scale. It is simply the honest measure of the distance. Nissan is not finished, but the road back is longer than almost anybody outside the industry realizes, and that is exactly why nobody is talking about it.